Have you ever noticed that the anger you swallow always comes back? It feels like you're holding yourself together, but in reality, it quietly controls your words, your thoughts, your relationships. You try to stay calm, patient, reasonable. Yet inside, tension builds, and one day it will inevitably find an outlet. When you hold on to anger for too long, it almost never comes out where it originated. You endure pressure, swallow disrespect, agree to things that make you uncomfortable, and then unexpectedly snap at those closest to you, friends, family, or people who just happen to be around. Sometimes it's sharp words, sometimes coldness, sometimes irritation over trivial things, followed by guilt. You didn't want to hurt anyone, but your mind simply found a safe place to release what you've been holding in for too long. You call it fatigue or a rough period, but in reality, it's the result of a deeply ingrained habit, suppressing your anger. You're used to thinking of yourself as calm, rational, someone who keeps emotions under control, but inside, constant tension has taken root. You don't seek conflict, yet you don't feel ease. You don't express anger openly, but your mind is always alert. This is not harmony. It's life in a compressed state, which eventually becomes the norm.
There's a myth that millions believe. A strong person is someone who never gets angry, someone who endures, smooths over the edges, and always remains above the situation. Psychology shows the opposite. Emotional control and emotional suppression are not the same. Suppressed anger does not disappear. It stays within the system and gradually changes your thinking, habits, and relationship with yourself. Every time you remain silent against your own will, your brain receives the signal that your boundaries do not matter. Over time, this reduces confidence, makes communication cautious, and strains relationships. You may appear calm, but internally, you live in a defensive mode. People like this often feel chronic fatigue, irritability without reason, and a strange emptiness, as if they are not fully living their own life. You begin to be angry not so much at others, but at yourself, for remaining silent again, for agreeing again, for betraying your own sense of truth again.
Psychology here is relentless. When anger is unexpressed, the brain perceives the situation as an unfinished threat. The emotion remains active and continues to influence your mind, even if you try not to feel it. Sigmund Freud said, "We fear our own emotions because we think we cannot control them, but resisting them makes us slaves to them." Acknowledging your own rage and pain is the only path to inner freedom, and suppressed anger is a direct confirmation of these words. The first step toward change begins with rethinking anger. You don't need to get rid of it or increase control. Anger is a signal. It appears where your boundary has been violated, where you agreed to something that doesn't suit you, or allowed yourself to be treated in a way you did not want. As long as you perceive anger as a threat, your mind will hide it. But when you start seeing it as information, clarity begins to emerge. The second step is learning to experience anger, not suppress it or release it destructively. Most people fear that if they allow themselves to feel it, they will lose control and ruin relationships. In practice, the opposite happens. Conscious anger reduces internal tension because the brain no longer needs to keep the emotion in the background. You start noticing it before it turns into irritation, sarcasm, or coldness. You learn to sense the moment when a boundary is crossed and understand that anger is a signal, not a threat. You ask yourself a question you previously avoided. Where exactly has my boundary been violated? Not who is at fault, but where have I agreed against myself? This simple yet uncomfortable question gradually changes your thinking and restores your inner connection. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And it's this awareness that helps you remain composed even in strong emotions. The third step is communication. You begin to express your state directly and calmly, without accusations or excuses, not to win an argument, but to avoid betraying yourself. By speaking about your boundaries before tension accumulates, you maintain clarity, and your words sound more confident. People sense your honesty, and this changes the dynamics of relationships more than silence or restrained outbursts. True magnetism comes not from suppressing emotions, but from the ability to be honest with yourself and others. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, "Unexpressed feelings do not die, they merely fester." Suppressed anger does not disappear as long as you run from it. But when you stop hiding it, it loses its destructive power and becomes a source of inner resilience. People who stop suppressing anger do not become aggressive or confrontational. They become clear, confident, and internally free, because true strength of mind begins where you no longer sacrifice yourself for the comfort of others. Suppressed anger is often linked to the feeling that emotions must be hidden to avoid losing love or respect. But true freedom comes when you allow yourself to honestly feel and express what you feel, and this does not destroy relationships. It strengthens inner integrity. Ultimately, the path from suppressed anger to clarity passes through 3 steps. Acknowledge and rethink anger as a signal, not a threat. Consciously experience the emotion within yourself without destructive expression. Honest and calm communication, maintaining your boundaries without aggression. When you follow this path, suppressed anger stops controlling you from within. You no longer live in a defensive mode. Your mind becomes clear, communication honest, and confidence natural. Suppressed anger is not weakness or a verdict. It is a pointer showing where you can reclaim your strength. And when you finally look at it directly, it becomes a source of inner freedom. The truth is, suppressed anger is a mirror of your boundaries. Stop hiding it. Stop fearing yourself. Recognize it, feel it, speak it. True strength of mind and genuine freedom begin here. Embracing your emotions is not a weakness. It is the path to clarity. By acknowledging, feeling, and expressing your anger consciously, you reclaim control over your mind. Each moment you face your inner truth, you step closer to freedom, confidence, and genuine connection with yourself and others. Suppressed anger no longer dictates your life. You do.
And in the end, remember this: anger is not an enemy or a flaw. It's a compass. It points to the places where you've been living out of alignment with yourself. Every time you choose honesty over silence, you reclaim your energy, self-respect, and inner calm. You don't need to become harder, only clearer. From this moment on, you stop shrinking inside and start living fully without betraying who you are.